thank you so much for that. They're still oh, someone has unpacked Isla in the chat. Inclusive synchronous learning activities. Thank you very much for that, because otherwise we're playing acronym bingo for the rest of the morning. Brilliant. Okay, so without further ado, I am going to hand over to just hear from Fiona Strawbridge and Martin Compton about the approach that we've taken at UCL. So you're back in the room, Martin? Wonderful. Okay. Yeah. Okay, I'll hand over to you, Fiona.
Thanks very much. Yeah, so I was thinking about this session, and I was thinking back to the history over the last 12 months, because I think it was about last March or so that I began to think, well, perhaps we need to introduce some hybrid provision in our classrooms at UCL. And I pitched this to a group of senior academics, vice deans, faculty tutors. You know, what do you think? Do you think this would be needed? I said, absolutely not. We're not going to do this. You know, it's really not a priority. But I had a bit of a sense that I would probably get into more trouble for not having done it, even if it wasn't needed, than for doing it. And you know, so I felt that we needed to do something. And we're a huge institution with a very large number of classrooms. And the question is, if you want to try and kit out full hybrids everywhere, you know, it's going to be massively expensive. We were quoted of the order of multiple tens of thousands, up to about 100,000 to do a full hybrid classroom. Obviously not possible. On the other hand, we wanted to, you know, make for more flexibility in as many rooms as possible. So we chose to introduce a very basic approach to hybrid, which cost a couple of thousand in each classroom. So it was affordable, but the downside of doing something at great scale is that it was a bit clunky. So we were able to sort of piggyback onto our lecture capture infrastructure in 180 rooms. Which meant that you could just use Teams or Zoom in those spaces, be heard by remote audiences, and students who are remote would be able to be heard by people in the room. And that used the in-room camera and so on. And then for another 180 rooms, we added in a Logitech Brio webcam with a decent mic, which meant, again, although we weren't using our lecture capture system, we were able to run live streams effectively of Teams and Zoom-based teaching. And in rooms which were too small to do that, we suggest people brought their own hybrid, which means bring your own laptop, and you can borrow a webcam from your department. We issued them out to departments, and then you can set it up. The trouble is, we had 3 different approaches here. And so there were a different set of instructions depending on which sort of room you were in. And as you saw from the faffing around that we were doing at the beginning of a teaching session is not a great time to have to be doing a load of technical faffing and choosing which camera and which mic and which speaker setup to use. So we did a lot of work in terms of outreach. And Steve Rowett, who's in the room here, did a huge amount of work to create little recordings of what you needed to do, which cables to plug into which bits, what to do, what not to do. Martin and colleagues ran a very large number of briefings to help sort of handhold people through it. And we tried to make really, really clear that this wasn't going to be easy. Don't do it lightly, and don't do it without having a sort of co-pilot in the classroom to help you to manage the online sort of side of it. And we really wanted to manage expectations that this isn't full hybrid. We called it basic hybrid very, very intentionally, because we knew that people thought they were going into a hybrid classroom, they were going to be badly sort of disappointed. So this one. That one, sorry. So yeah, we had a number of technical challenges. The audio in the rooms was really difficult, and I remember running a session in here. Well, Martin was running the session where people at the back of the room couldn't be heard, And so now we've got this wonderful ceiling tile microphone, which just looks like a ceiling tile with blue lights on it, which means that everybody in the room can be heard. But this is a special room. This room has had special treatment. We don't have cameras facing the students in the room in most of our basic hybrid spaces. We have one in here because Steve brought one along with him today. So it is very much a kind of pared down system. But also we have different experiences in different rooms, and really the dream would be you go into a room, you decide I want this to be a hybrid session, you press a button and it all happens. But I'm afraid it isn't possible. It hasn't been possible in the speed that we rolled things out to do things like that. And we've had challenges with the inability to capture whiteboards and writing surfaces without a great deal of faffing. So again, for subjects which depend a lot on using visualizers, then that has been really problematic. And there were simple things like we had a special blue cable which you needed to use in some circumstances. People would be unplugging that or plugging it into the wrong thing, or basically unwiring the AV, which then means that and then giving up because it didn't work, and then they leave the classroom and the next person comes in and it doesn't work for them. So the AV support teams had a real job to support all of that. So there were lots of technical challenges. It wasn't a thing that we wanted to have to do, but we did it. And I think there were also some quite significant educational challenges, which Martin is going to talk about.
Yes. Okay, I'll keep it brief. But just a quick summary of the things, and already been mentioned. The top of the list there is the cognitive load. You saw the stress that we were under here as hosting this event when there were the problems at the beginning, for which I again apologise with the multiple Zoom links. But that just exacerbated something that's there when you're thinking about your students online or your colleagues online. I've been in some meetings where people online have been utterly neglected, and I've seen a couple of classes where that's happened as well, because it's so easy to do, because you're in the zone, you're in the moment, you're in the room, you look at the room, not at your students online, which I'm trying to do at the moment. It's very, very easy to forget your colleagues or your students there. That urge as well to just keep control of it all, be unidirectional, revert to old school passive kinds of teaching modalities and delivery. I can't be bothered with all the discussion. It's too messy, it's too difficult. So I'm just going to talk. I'm going to fill your empty vessels with the stuff in my head, and let's make the most of it and then get the heck out of here as quickly as we can. A lot of people have been reporting that. So deliberately planning in discursive activities or ways of channeling discussion is absolutely fundamental. We've got chat in Zoom. We've got anonymous questions in Mentimeter. We've got the opportunity to have plenaries at the end and breakout groups and discussions in the room. We're building that in. But every single one of those comes with a risk. So, for example, I've put my phone down somewhere. I couldn't find it because I was going to monitor the Mentimeter questions as they come. And, because of all the faff, I've just noticed it's over there. So I am now multiple relief, as it should be shown on my face there. The key thing, I think, which is something that happened right at the beginning of the pandemic, was that people have been desperate to use these technologies to facilitate access to their students, but in so doing, haven't really thought through the pedagogy. And what do we know? We transfer that into online teaching. We did that at the start of the pandemic. We're doing it again with hybrid, but actually working in different ways is fundamental. A couple of other things you can see on the screen there: sharing spaces, sharing activities, thinking about different ways of communicating is fundamental. And there is, of course, this tension. It is Marmite. On the one hand, we're being more inclusive by doing this, enabling people who perhaps have caring responsibilities or illness or disability or other reasons that they can't make campus in the moment access. Whilst on the other, people are saying, I can't do it. It's too messy. It's doing my head in. It's stressing me out. Understandably so. And those are both the people facilitating and on the receiving end, in either modality. It's huge tension. I've made some recommendations, just links to all of these things will be shared with you post-session. It's just an extension of what I'm saying now. But Fiona's point about co-piloting, absolutely essential. Looking ahead, very quickly, Fiona, back to you.
So, I mean, we would like to reflect on this experience and build on it. We are anticipating continued challenges in the next teaching year. At UCL, we have an awful lot of students who are based in China, and who knows what travel restrictions might remain for them. So we may well have to run some sessions in a hybrid mode to reach those students. I would like to see a more consistent setup, and probably not in all of our teaching spaces, but we may want to have a subset of rooms which are enhanced hybrid or beyond the basic hybrid. We are running a proof of concept in UCL East, which is our new campus, where we're going to put together a more fully featured hybrid classroom, and we want to learn from that. But I think many of us feel that we've had our fingers somewhat burned. I must say, about a year ago, I was quite an advocate of hybrid, and I have watched and learned, and I don't think it's impossible, but I think it's quite a big job to pull off successfully, and it's certainly not something that we can probably have as a blanket approach at an institution like this. We need to be a bit more targeted in where we do it and how we support it, and we need teachers to be very thoughtful about how they would want to do that. So I think I'm handing over to.
Perfect. So thank you. Yeah, thanks very much, Fiona and Martin. As I say,